Rick's 80th birthday last week. 4, give us an animal.
A donkey.
A donkey, perfect. And Pete Churchwell, since you've already given me a hard time about singing today, what would be a third animal?
How about a giraffe?
A giraffe? Wonderful. Okay, I bet you have never sang "Oh MacDonald Had a Farm" featuring a skunk, a donkey, and a giraffe. Here we go. Oh MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a skunk, E-I-E-I-O, with a chick here and a chick there, everywhere. Oh MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a donkey, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a there, here, there, everywhere. Where do I need to hear you? Oh MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a giraffe, E-I-E-I-O, with here about Gene Simmons' 21-inch tongue move here and there and here. Yeah, there, I don't know. Oh MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, sit down. You're so creative, aren't they? We are blessed beyond measure with the members and creative thinking. Well, did you all know what today's National Day is? Did anybody see it on Facebook? I've already given you a clue.
Ice cream.
Yes, National Eat Ice Cream for Breakfast Day. If you're late, it's not too late, you can still get it. But it's something else day. Maybe you didn't know that February 18 is National Cow Milk Will Flying in an Airplane Day.
What?
Yes, this happened to Ollie, the Guernsey cow. She was from Elm Farms, and she flew from Bismarck, Missouri to St. Louis in 1930 and was milked, and they dropped the milk packets out of the plane as a publicity stunt on their way. If only Grove Tourism could think of something that we do. Okay. All right, here is our Sergeant of Arms. You know, we do this to raise money for our scholarships. So go ahead and get these dollars out. I can tell that you're not going to do well today. Walker, I want you a little bit to walk around the audience and help me when you see the first hand up. That's the person that's going to answer the trivia question. If they're right, they don't have to pay. If they're wrong, they probably should double up, but I won't make that happen. But I need you all to help me because A, they cheat, they might phone a friend, and all those things. Can you all do that? All right, so help me. By the time I read it, their hands will be up. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Animal science people, here we go. How many neck bones does a giraffe have? Okay, over here.
7.
That is right, 7. Exactly the same number as what?
People.
As people. All right. You're excused for $1, but Gil should go ahead and have you put in $1 anyway. Okay. Number 2. Now, if you see it before I do, make sure I get to know. There are certain types of penguins that propose to females by giving them what? Well, A, you didn't have your hand up. And B, that was the wrong answer. Time's up. Pebbles. That's where giving the girl a rock is all started with penguins. Right there. Okay. All right. All right. This one's kind of tricky here. octopus have how many brains, how many hearts, and what color blood?
8.
I don't see hands. Walker's not identifying. Lilbit is not identifying. Any hands up in the air?
No.
Oh, they're really looking like dumb now, aren't they? Anybody? Okay.
2, 8 black.
They have 2 brains, 8 hearts, and black blood. I think that was your mother-in-law. But actually, they have 9 brains, 1 for each leg and a main brain, 3 hearts, and blue blood. Okay, here we go. 2 more questions, and we're moving on. All right. Zebras. We learned last week what color their skin was. What color was it? Do you remember? Oh, yes. What color is the skin of polar bears? Oh, look at them. They're all just sitting there and they're going to yell it out like it ventriloquist. Somebody else is saying it. It is, Judy. It's black. So, Judy, what color is the skin of tigers?
Of what?
Tigers.
Come on, Judy. Come on.
Black.
Black? Wrong. It's striped, just like their fur. Tigers are striped. All right, last one. This one's going to be helpful to you if you don't ever make it on Jeopardy. Dogs see primarily 3 colors. Can anybody tell us what those 3 colors are?
White, black, and gray.
Walker, do you know this one? All right, Doc, tell us what it is. Well, you know, that's just exactly wrong. Because they can't see red or green at all. They're colorblind like humans. They see yellow, blue, and gray. So if you're buying your puppy new toys, that would be the selections that you should make. Who says this is not an educational program? Put those dollars in the bucket. Let's get this over with. Give a round of applause for Tyler. Always having correct answers.
And now our Rotarian of the day is Sean Waters. So big round of applause for Sean.
You want the music for the dance? Here we go.
We thought we'd get a little salsa from that first. Are you ready?
No.
Okay. Come on, sir. Okay, I'm actually here going to put on a little hat as the Grove Area Chamber Ambassador today. This weekend, Friday and Saturday, is the Home Garden and Travel Show. Big deal. Over 100 vendors. Last week, the Tackle Show was the first use of the new Expo Center, and it was very, very well attended. So Amanda asked everybody, please come out. $5 gets you in. We're going to have an hourly drawing for really nice gifts that local merchants gave, so at least hourly. Some of the prime times are probably on a half hour as well. There's going to be raffle items as well so that you could get those. Live TV and radios, we've got several spots that have been sold there. Just a lot of things going on, so please come out and support the community. If you'd like to volunteer, there are still spaces available for you to do that. At the check-in desk, back in refreshments, at the concession stand, lots of ways to get involved. Let Amanda, myself, or you're a chamber ambassador yourself, you please get involved. So hope to see you there.
So our caterer today is Timbered In. Kim does a wonderful job for us. We want to give a shout out. Hold on, Kim, just hang on. Kim, we want to recognize her recent award. They received the Heart of Education Award 2026 recipient, the Polton family. For 2026, the McDonald County Schools Foundation proudly honors the Poland family as this year's Heart of Education Award recipient. This family's roots, service, and commitment to education spans generations. The Poland family story in McDonald County began in 1970 when Jim and Mary chose Pineville as the place to raise their family. Drawn by the close-knit community and strong schools, they became deeply involved, not just as parents, but as volunteers, educators, and lifelong supporters of Mack County Schools. Let's give her a great round of applause. Our guest today with Suzanne, again, with potential member, Dwayne Douglas. Dwayne, it's great to have you here. And let's not forget our AG, Michael Addington, is in the house with us today, so if you see Michael. And now we have a red badge presentation, so Diane, if you will come forward with Linda and Karen, our sponsor. All right, we have something in common today with our speaker. We're all from Zeni, Oklahoma. all four of us today. So anyway, but I want to introduce Linda Rigsby, let our sponsor Karen Walters do more in depth of an intro with her. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Hi, I'm here to welcome Linda to our club. Her interest in Rotary was sparked by a speaker from Rotary, Mary Richardson, that came to newcomers and spoke. And after that, she started asking me questions, and now she's here. And we also want to thank the great ambassadors that we have in our club that go out and speak and bring others in. So I'll let Linda tell you a little bit about herself.
My name's Linda Rigsby. I live out in Zeni. We've been here about 4 years. And I joined the Rotary to help in the community and see what it's all about. I have 4 grandchildren. What else do you want? No, I have 5.
Also, Linda, she's interested in the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, so she can become chairman, right, Mary? We'll just make her a member, right? Okay, we won't do that honor. But anyway, let's go ahead and give Linda a real warm welcome and congratulations on becoming Rotary member. And just want to make another special announcement. Lobster Fest, if you haven't seen it, is May 30th out at the new Wolf Creek Expo. Zach Bechtel, I see you. We're going to ask your help for the cooking of lobster, so I just want to give a shout out right now to Zach Bechtel. No pressure. Big round of applause for Zach. That's on the spot. Thank you. Anyway, we're going to have a Lobster Fest meeting March 4th at 10:30, so we need all hands on deck to make this the best event at the new Wolf Creek Expo. So now I'm going to ask you to come forward and present Tom, our speaker for today.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce you guys to Tom Callan, who's with the Zeni, Suri Alpaca Ranch. Just to give you guys a little background on Tom. Tom was married to Kathleen. They met and married in Washington, D.C. We're both broadcast journalists, and you will see that in Tom's voice. I have been visiting with him, and I just can't ever, he just keeps talking, and I just keep listening. His voice is so pleasant, unlike so many of ours, me included. Anyway, they were both broadcast journalists. In 2008, while living in Utah, they founded the Zeni Suri Alpacas and immersed themselves in learning how to care for the growing herd. Tom, a former anchor, reporter, and spot news specialist, is now was a professor. I just found out he's now retired at NEO A&M, teaching American government. He finds cleaning barns surprisingly relaxing after a full day of teaching and doing other things around the farm. He conducts a nightly head count to make sure every alpaca is safe and healthy. Kathleen's journalism career includes interviewing kings, presidents, lawmakers, and covering the summit of international nations, along with reporting on plane crashes, demonstrations, and major international events. Today, she devotes her time to alpaca babies and ranch life. She oversees the alpaca sales, manages their products, and is continually working with fleece and marketing efforts. I'm sure you've seen around town that she sells some phenomenal items that are made from the alpaca or from the ranch. If you haven't ever felt them, they are really, really soft. Their son Tommy has escaped the ranch life and now lives and works in Chicago. So with that being said, I'm going to have Tom come up and tell you everything he knows about its alpaca, and this is the last of the Wild Kingdom talks that we have scheduled for this month. Tom, come on up.
So I'm the end of ABC's Wild World of
That's it.
Sports? That's not the era, is it? Am I supposed to stand? I'm used to giving my name, but you already got my name, and I see we have some pictures of, and I feel self-conscious having to speak and look at my face. This doesn't seem right, particularly in the church. But in any case, we've been here, I can't believe it, over 16 years. My wife and I have been married 38 years, 16 of those are here, and that was never anticipated. So what I'm going to do is mention 3 topics for the day. Maybe a little bit about our ranch, a little bit about the alpacas and what makes them distinctive, and some references to the IRS. And it won't be critical in case we're being taped. That's what this is. I feel a little bit like James Stockdale. Do you remember, anyone remember James Stockdale? There was a debate in 1992. I'll connect this real quickly. I've been wanting to mention this, between Vice President Dan Quayle, Senator Al Gore, and Ross Perot's running mate, who suffered a lot in Vietnam, named James Stockdale. But the first thing he did when he got up to speak, he said, quote, "Why am I here? Who am I? What am I doing here?" So that's all that people remember and obviously forgot. Okay. We bought a piece of property in Zena in 2005. Sight unseen, but it has worked out for us. So we bought our property without ever looking at it before we purchased it. We purchased the property here solely as an investment. As some of you may know, the IRS has something called a 1031, whereby you sell a piece of property and you have to invest it in something else within 60 days or you pay taxes. So that's what, money's behind everything. I guess I can say that in a church. Well, that's true in a church too. Okay. Thinking about our own church. But so we bought the property in 2005. I never imagined living on the property for 2 seconds. Okay? I was a reporter, and I did a lot of good work for KSL News Radio in Salt Lake City, and I worked in various markets until we moved out to Salt Lake City. But I was let go 17 years ago on February 23rd, along with many other people. And I've been through that a number of times, and I can describe what that's like. But if that didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be here. I just felt I couldn't ask my wife to go through the process of moving to another town. And at the same time, we went to the National Alpaca Show over Memorial Day weekend in 2008 in a town called Sandy, which is known for soccer, about 30 miles south of Salt Lake City. And we met a couple there who was Mark, an assistant police chief in Salt Lake City, and his wife had been a 911 operator. And I noticed when she spoke, she got to the point. I said to my wife, she's like a teacher. She was very succinct and made good presentations. And so that was in 2008. We purchased our first 3 animals on July 20th, when we lived in Salt Lake City. Now, where did we keep them? The people from whom we bought the animals cared for them on their own property. It's called logistic. I was let go, as I say, 17 years ago in February. And by the way, all those who let me go also were later dismissed as well. Anyway. We already own the land here, which we purchased in 2005, and so we decided to take a gamble and set up a ranch here on our property, which I haven't told you where it is, I'm so used to being here. We're right off of State Route 127 in Zeni. And we purchased our land from the man next door, who was the late Wayne Smith, who was once on the school board here in Grove, and fought in the Battle of the Bulge, which some of you may remember was December 1944. So in '09, we took the first tentative steps to set up a ranch here, which meant spending a lot of money. The people wanted cash up front, which scared me to death. I thought, boy, you know, it's going out the door and, you know, you're afraid of what's going to happen. So here we are 16 years later. At the moment, we have 38 alpacas. At one point, we had 69. A little bit about the alpacas. Do you all know where they come from, where they originate? Yell it out. What? South America, the Andes Mountains, or I guess a lot of you might say their spiritual home is Peru. And on our property, as we will this Saturday and frequently, my house, there we are, and I took that just about a month and a half ago. We're a tourist site. So we give a tour, we explain the history and the science of these animals. We then allow you to touch them, and then we're going to kind of nudge you and escort you into our store. It does all fit together. Somebody just mentioned, who was leading the songs about the giraffes and all these animals? And my word. Well, yeah. Well, the alpacas are related to the camel. Alpacas are called camelids. In the camelid family, yes, alpacas, llamas, vicuñas, another word for a wild, but sounds like you know what I'm talking about, kind of a wild but untamed alpaca, and guanacos, kind of a wild, untamed llama. So the alpaca is a descendant of the camel. And you can, if we see a picture, now that's a yoga class from last summer. Yoga with the alpacas, that's my wife, at a show last March in Chickasha in the Grady County Fairgrounds, while fires were burning outside. Sounds like it was going on yesterday in Woodward, where people had to be evacuated. We spent a lot of time agonizing over the weight of the animals, and also we spent a lot of time talking about gestation. And here's what's interesting and kind of an unknown. These animals have been in North America for almost 50 years. Almost 50 years. They came to North America in about 5 or 6 different installments, starting in 1979. And keep that in mind, because I'm going to connect that to something. When we bought our first 3 animals, we were told that the gestation, which means how long it takes to have a birth, and everything has to be defined, that the gestation was roughly 11 months. And then, on one of our signs, oh, and I took that. I just love that shot. That wasn't rehearsed. I was just lucky to take out my phone. We were told the gestation was 11 months. Then 11 and a half months. Since 2020, the gestation for these animals is 12 months and counting. We don't know, and we don't have enough data or information to know why that has been extended. And I'm not talking just about our ranch called Zeni Suri alpacas, but most ranches in Canada and the United States. So the gestation period has increased. Another thing that's interesting to us, and maybe changing, we always were under the impression that all healthy births were early in the morning, but certainly not late in the day. We know from our experience, any alpaca born in the evening has never lived out the week. Never. We have one guy named Zephyr. His knees were reversed. We did everything to keep him going. He didn't live out the week. And you almost feel like it's one of your own humans because you're close to these animals. They're our children, grandchildren. Well, we don't have any grandchildren, we like to, but these are, I guess, our substitutes. That's a whole different discussion. But there's a new line of thought that they've been in North America long enough, some researchers say they can give birth any time of day or night. But that's still not the majority opinion. But it may be, as we look back, that they've been here long enough that maybe their nature is changing since they're out of their natural habitat, which is the Andes Mountains, which, as some of you may know, is roughly 8,000 to 12,000 feet in a very cold environment. And even with the snow here in January, I'm still amazed that these animals go outside to try to search for grass. I know they've got these thick blankets on, but still, you know, what was it like, 12 or 14 degrees around January 24th and January 25th. Another thing about the female alpaca is that the mother can put a pregnancy on pause if she senses external danger, like a fire, God forbid. There's no single magic number of days. Let's just say in the range of 8 days to maybe up to 16 days. And I did not say when she puts the pregnancy on pause, she's harming or retarding the baby or hurting it. She's stopping the pregnancy till the danger is past. Okay? We had one lady on a tour who says, well, human women can do that, but since we're polite people, I just smile because we know that's nonsense. Either I misunderstood, I don't know what she was talking about. She goes, oh, all women do that. Well, we would have heard it if it's taken 12 months, right? Yeah. When a baby is born, it's usually a very peaceful process. Most babies, we're wondering, does the mom know she's giving birth? Because what do you think the mother's doing as the baby's entering the world? She's eating grass. So when the baby is born, we will put iodine on the umbilical cord, check to see if the placenta is properly formed without any unusual protrusions. And that baby almost uniformly is up walking within an hour and 10 minutes. An hour and 10 minutes. Because that baby needs to start nursing. And it may not always know where to go, so we'll pick up baby and hopefully mom stands still and put baby under mom so it can get some milk. Otherwise, we got to provide milk in a bottle or colostrum. All right? Most of these animals weigh in the range of 132 to 180 pounds. And I'm often asked, what's the difference between a llama and an alpaca? Number one, about 98% of the time, the llama is always bigger, maybe weighing up to 300 pounds. So once again, the alpaca, maybe 130 up to 180 pounds. And we know, and we're obsessed with their weight, if they cannot maintain a weight of at least 70 pounds, scientists say that's a, quote, failure to thrive. The baby is not going to make it. You're not going to find a 10-year-old alpaca who weighs 40, 50, 60, or even 70 pounds. Number two, the alpaca's fleece, which is their hair, is much softer and smoother than a llama's. Number three, you could take a little child or a suitcase and have a llama carry it. Never an alpaca because you're going to danger or hurt their fragile little spines. But both the alpaca and the llama, like Suri, you know, all that, no upper teeth. No teeth at all. Only teeth on the bottom, though it is true the alpacas have fighting molars. Okay. And it doesn't matter what color I claim my animals are. When we go to a show, the judges will take a skein of color that closely resembles the color of our animals and tell me the color of our alpacas. But if we went back centuries, as we've done the research, alpacas originally only came in red and white. Every other color on the ranch is a derivative of red and white. Okay? Now, I was asked a question earlier about when do we breed them and so forth. The alpacas do not go into heat They do not have breeding cycles. We determine it by looking at our computer. We try to figure out what type of fleece are we trying to raise. The whole point is to raise animals whose hair or their fleece is valuable. The lower the micron level of the animal, the higher the quality fleece. So the lower the micron level, a low micron level tells us it's thick and it's incredibly soft. Alpacas are hypoallergenic. The main difference between alpaca fleece and wool is itchy for some folks. And we must admit, I have met people come into our store and say, oh, this makes me itchy. So we just have to accept that. I mean, we don't think it is. But here's the difference. There's something called lanolin in wool. It's the lanolin in the wool that makes the wool itchy. There's no lanolin in alpaca fleece. It's incredibly soft. In mid-December, for the first time, we have our own, we're running out, we had our own line of socks made from our Suri alpacas. So we were very excited about that. But now there are two types of alpacas, because I don't think I mentioned that. Our ranch is called Zeni, and we all know where Zeni is if you live in this area. You'd be surprised. Zeni, Suri, S-U-R-I alpacas. So there are two types of alpacas. Suri versus Wakaya, H-U-A-C-A-Y-A. And it's something, you don't pronounce H in Espanol. We have the minority Suri. Here's the difference. The Suri fleece, okay, there's the Suri. If we can see clearly, there's Kelly kissing one of the alpacas. But the Suri fleece is long like dreadlocks. The Wakaya, and she's a Wakaya, it looks like Cleo. And it's somewhat hard to tell from the screen, but the Wakaya fleece is kind of knotted or puffed up like cotton candy. Most alpacas are Wakaya. We have the minority Suri. And if you're wondering, you don't breed a Suri with a Wakaya because the fleece is going to look confused. Well, we got enough confused people about their identity and gender. I better keep out of that. But okay. Just desperate to bring all these things into our. Okay. Yeah, and an interesting footnote. And I only know about this because I've gone to seminars. If you were to breed an alpaca with a llama, the offspring is called a warizo. But nobody comes to a ranch saying, hey, where's the warizo ranch? There aren't any. But that has been done. But the problem is you're ending up with a very helter-skelter, confused fleece on the animal. There's no market for that whatsoever. All right? So that's just an interesting footnote I'd like to pass along. We know that these animals have an enormous lung capacity. Studies have shown the higher they go in the Andes or the Rockies or wherever, we're told, hard to believe, their blood pressure does not increase. Mine's probably increased just trying to expostulate up here on the stage, but theirs does not. These are low maintenance animals, but on the other hand, you would never leave that ranch without somebody there, just in case the unexpected happens. We've been through, all sorts of situations that cannot be anticipated on a ranch. And these animals come in automatically as the sun sets. So in June, they're going to stay on the field at 8:45, but we still have to count them and make certain they all come in, because we don't want to find that somebody was way out there and had a hawk attack them overnight. Now, what do they eat? These are vegetarians. I don't think we had any meat for lunch. Okay, these are vegetarians. Their diet consists of the following. The Bermuda grass that's natural to eastern Oklahoma. People have visited our ranch and said, look at all this grass that you planted out here. Well, that's just natural. And I had the Oklahoma Agricultural Extension Service examine the grass, so that's a good source of nutrition. Secondly, alfalfa and obviously hay for the winter months. But since there's no green grass, oh, there is some in our field because we've had no winter except for the end of January. But we also, in the winter months, such as it is, prepare something called mash to give them the nutrition they're missing since there's no green grass. So what's inside mash? It's in a little bowl. It has alpaca feed, beet pulp, which has some molasses, and alfalfa, and we mix it with warm water twice a day. That is giving them the nutrition that they are missing since there's no longer any green grass outside. So I've discussed the differences between Suri and Wakaya, their weight when they're born, and their weight as they mature. Most of these animals live in the range of maybe 14 to 16 years, with a smaller subset, maybe 24 to 25 years. What is heartbreaking is when these animals get sick, and if they can't stand on day number 2 of their sickness, they generally are not going to make it. We will try to force someone to stand. We'll try to do it. We'll give them Banamine, anything. But alpacas aren't going to tell you they're in pain. We've developed, most local vets are not familiar with camels. But just so you know, we've developed a good relationship with a vet named Dr. Ed Gilslider, who's over in Claremore, an hour 15 minutes west. And he'll come to the ranch when we need some assistance. If you set up a ranch like this, you don't bring in alpacas and goats and horses and put them all together. It's never going to work. The alpacas are 100% herd animals, which means they need to be with their own kind. Their whole goal out of that field, if we put a camera on them, is to preserve their herd. But the dark side is, and we've seen this, not every day, but it does happen, they'll put somebody down if they said somebody is sick, there's a threat to the rest of them. Okay? And we've seen that from a mother who thought her daughter wasn't walking properly, or a boy mounting another boy who had a type of cancer. Breeding. We control the breeders. As I said, they don't have birthing cycles, they don't go into heat. You generally bring a boy in on a lead and a girl. Some of the young boys don't necessarily know what to do, but they need to learn like we all need to learn. But we can't really see the physical manifestation of a birth to the 10th month. We don't do a sonogram. What we can do, and this is anecdotal, not science, we can bring a boy in on a lead with a girl whom we think is pregnant, and if she spits at him, 9 times out of 10, she's not interested because she's pregnant, not open or available. If that happened in the human world, there'd be less scripts for TV, right? The annual alpaca show for us, for those of us here in Oklahoma, is always the second weekend in November in Chickasha at the Grady County Fairgrounds. And remember, these animals are never, when you go to a competition, they don't have the ability to jump over a fence. They're being judged on their fleece. Another way of saying they're being evaluated on their hair. Okay? And I know I've already mentioned, but we can't overemphasize that the lower the micron level, the softer and the finer is their fleece. These are very therapeutic animals. We've brought them to nursing homes. I'm surprised they let us in. In fact, it's been a few years ago, before Christmas, we had them outside the Grove Library. And when we brought them in the nursing homes, I think people appreciated them. No, the animals did not defecate on the floor. We wondered about that. We clean our barn every single day. We call their poop beans because they do resemble actual beans. The alpaca poop is outstanding fertilizer. So if you ever, oh, I took that picture of you, so we get the best sunsets here. But we've had people come and buy our fertilizer. I had one former student from NEO, much to my distress, but I didn't tell him he needed the fertilizer because he was opening a, what type of place? Another marijuana establishment. But that was a few years ago. I think he's moved on to something else. But we use their fertilizer in their beans for our tomato plants. And I've got this many tomatoes that you can see maybe at Harps or Walmart. And we have to stuff them in refrigerators and freezers. Any particular questions on the nature of the alpaca or what makes them distinct? Go ahead.
Two questions. You mentioned you had 68 and the 39. What happened to the 31?
Oh, I can't hear. I heard the word 68. What?
You had 68 at one time, now you've got the 38. What happened to the 31? And are alpacas trainable? Do they have name recognition? So what happened to 31 and they're trainable?
Well, let's see. Are they trainable? I know my wife says they know their names. I'm not convinced, so it depends who you're talking to. Before we go to a show, we put a halter on them, and then we try to get them to walk in a single path, maybe up a little wooden incline. So they're trainable in that sense. But beyond that, repetition is what they're looking for. When one of the self-designated leaders walks out into the field, everybody else follows. So this is not a place for individuality. You know, people aren't going to come up and have their own activity. There's one or two leaders. Boys and girls are always separate, and they follow the leader. I didn't follow you on the number 31.
No, you lost 31 since you started with 68. You got to 39. What happened to all the rest of them?
Oh, well, there were some deaths, there have been births, and we had some sales. Yeah. And I think another thing about running a ranch like this, I could speak for 2 hours up here, and I can't do that, about the trouble in finding people to work for us over time. That would be humorous to do that. Go ahead.
So the long necks on the alpaca, do they do something specific, or do they just end up with long necks?
They just end up with long necks. I don't think it serves any specific purpose. By the way, we shear them. I don't do it, we shear them once a year. We've got a team that comes in. They might start at 9 o'clock, finish at 3, and then maybe go to Missouri to some other ranch. And one other thing, we get 3 cuttings per animal on shearing day. We take their fleece and put it to a freezer bag you might have at home. So let's say we're looking at Felicity. The highest quality fleece, well, that's me. The highest quality fleece is on the side. That'd be bag 1. Bag 2 would be the fleece in the neck and shoulders and rear, and bag 3, whatever's left over. We'll put that in a storage building, or we'll send it out to a mill where it's turned into yarn or roving, which you may know is used for spinning. Yes?
What about parasite control, vaccinations? What do they require?
Vaccinations, yes. We have had terrible problems with ticks, as we have had with humans. But vaccinations, yes. And to reduce their pain, we often give them Banamine. So I obviously have no background in veterinary science, neither does my wife, but you need to know just a few things for your own protection and for the benefit of the animals.
So what do you vaccinate them for?
Well, one vaccination, a year or 2 ago, we had, even last spring, tremendous amounts of water. We vaccinated them for worms and something called barber pole.
She was a veterinarian. She can ask this question.
Oh, you're a veterinarian?
They're a warm-blooded animal. Can they carry rabies?
Did you say, do they carry rabies?
Can they? And do you have to?
I've never heard of it. All I can say is I've never heard of it. Yeah. I've not heard of that. Yeah.
When you sell it, what's the market price? What is your number one bag?
Bag?
Well, when you bag it up and send all your number ones in, are you selling it then?
No, we're not sending, no. When we send out the fleece, we're sending it to a mill to have it be turned into fiber that we can't do ourselves. But you asked about price. Generally in this industry, first of all, things change. We got into the market at the very time the price dropped out during the so-called Great Recession of 08 and 09. So talk about timing. But a newborn, just to give you a general idea, might go for like $300. A proven herd sire, that's a man who has a track record of producing some gorgeous little babies, he might go for $8,000 to $10,000 or $12,000. And there was a man, an alpaca named MacGyver, who was insured for $1 million in Utah because he developed the industry, the babies, and their fleece was gorgeous. He's no longer with us.
Well, but when you get the material back, the thread,
yes.
Do you manufacturing product, or do you sell it to somebody else that manufactures?
We do both. Now, I don't do it myself. My wife has taken a lot of the product and made some gorgeous hats, which are on display in our store. We have a felting loom in an annex that we've had since 2022 that's attached to our store. So we've done both. We can't make everything in our store. We'd be dead, tired, exhausted. But we've made purses and blankets and, as I mentioned, our own socks out of the alpaca fleece.
So you were talking about different quality. So back in the day, like in the late 60s and 70s, alpaca sweaters were a big golf thing. I still have one. It was my mother's, but I kind of always felt like it was kind of rough. Was that because of whatever cutting that was from? You know what I'm saying? Because your stuff looks really soft up there.
Well, you're saying whatever you touched in the 60s was kind of rough?
Yeah.
Now, all I can say is that's not been our experience. You know, from all the people who come into our store, I think only one or two have said they found it itchy. But are you sure? All I can say is, are you sure it was alpaca?
They called them alpaca sweaters. They had something else in with it.
It sounds like maybe llama or something else. I've not touched any alpaca that would seem rough. And one other aside, in our store, we do have one line of socks that are not alpaca. They seem rough, but people buy because they like the design on there. So, but I have to respect what you're saying, but I've not felt any alpaca that seemed rough. But
It just felt itchy, like you said.
well,
Are you sure it's not what else you were doing in the 60s?
One more question for Tom? Anybody? Tom, thank you so much for your information today.
all right. Try to mention as much as you know.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, sir. So now you know where it is. You need to plan a trip to meet Tom and his wonderful alpaca farm. So, ranch farm. Next week's program is Josh Schneider going over the NASCAR experience. It's wonderful to have our students here with us. Whoever's phone that is, you can go ahead and put 10 in the bucket on your way up. So, leave the tables blue, stack them and we'll find out how high just momentarily. Put out 7 medal. And if you will stand, we'll adjourn with the 4 weights up. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth?